Hello everyone, for this class we are doing things just a little bit differently if you're not new here. If you are new here, all my previous videos have all been voiceover. This particular class I will very obviously be chatting to you face to face more or less. This class is going to be absolutely perfect for those who are on their cycle, female cycle. If that also means that you are transgender SRS, then this class is also for you, assuming as much. Transgenders do go through their periods. This class will benefit for if you're in with the cycle as well, if you're always female since birth. Also this class is for you. Otherwise, if you are not female at all, or you're not exactly male either, you're also non-binary, you can absolutely go through this class just as a genuine way to stretch out, to take it easy for yourself, maybe even a post-recovery stretching type video. So it's definitely a versatile type of class, but it is mostly focused on the absolute lower half, stomach and below. So we will be going through some easy stretching like postures. Take anything at your own level, although everything in this class is very simple. For right now, let's just come into an easy seated posture. Whatever easy seated pose means for you. As you can probably see, or maybe you can't out of frame, do have here a candle. I'm going to use this to light up some sage. If you don't have any sage, which is this, by all means you can use some incense or the digital machinery version of incense. I cannot remember what the machine is called, but you just drop like 3 or so scented oils into it and then it shoots up steam as it heats up. I forgot what that's called, but any of those 3 options, sage, incense or the machinery version of incense. So once you have gotten any of those things on hand, or even if you had to borrow, feel free to also use some pillows if you'd like, a towel, a bolster, block or anything. But if you don't require any additional props, if you don't even want to require these scented objects, that's completely fine as well. But we are going to start off in easy seated pose, cross-legged if you'd like. Get a nice good appropriate burn going. Just going to use this sage to cleanse ourselves, or whatever you're using. In yoga we cleanse ourselves in more than ways than one. Emotionally, spiritually, mentally, some might argue physically as well. Sage also helps to contribute to that. Where one hand motions the sage back and forth, another hand just grips onto the knees in positions just to help yourself stay upright. Considering when we're on our time of the month, the smaller of our back closest to our tailbone tends to get the most crammed, muscular, and or the opposite side. Our stomach, the lowest stomach but just above the pubic bone, also tends to get rather stiff, just in the muscles, crammed. All the muscles are tensed up. So once we are mostly done using the sage, setting it aside, I'm just going to return my candle to my bedside table. It's going to take some nice deep easy breaths. Roll those shoulders back, away from the ears. Sitting up nice and tall, like there's a string attached to your head, pulling you up. Feel free to grip onto your knees if that helps with primal support. Otherwise, by all means, go with the Ane Mudra hands, similar to AOK hands, but your palms are facing up. And your elbows are to your knees. I'll definitely start the timer in just a moment, but right now we are sitting in, despite all my talking, we're sitting in silence. If you've got some of your own music playing, whether that be specific yoga music or just any odd calming tunes in the background, or you're tuning into any music that I've selected, overlay track of this video. Take these breaths as audible as you like, or as silent as you like. Blinking your eyes back open. Now from here, either grip onto your knees. It's going to start to swirl out the lowest stomach, hip area. Pretty much our hip bone, pelvic bone, tailbone zone. And of course, holding onto your knees like so, your chest joins in. But if you want to isolate the movement just to your hips, place your hands just behind you. And the same hip motion. Now the smaller the circles are, the faster the motion. The bigger the hip motions, the slower that you go. Whatever felt nicest for you, whatever helped you loosen up the fastest, but the most effective, stick with your pace. And switching directions. From here now, hands come back to knees if they weren't already there. Upper body circles. Pushing your chest forward and coming back, concaving out the shoulders as you come back around again. Let's go 2 more times this direction. And around the opposite way. One more time. Now the windshield wipe the knees. Just scooch forward more on your mat. Hands behind you, feet in front of you. Anchor side to side with your knees. If you can see how much cat fur there is on my pants. My cat was in here before. This is good for the hip twists. It's also even better for our lower back. Also, don't freak out if your joints have been cracking. It's just air pockets releasing. The next person who said you'll get arthritis from cracking anything, that's a bit of a tall tale. Okay, now we're coming into elevated lotus. So shifting your way forward. I don't know why I shifted all the way back. Shifting forward, recrossing your legs. Hands back behind you. So either flat palms or you can tent your hands. Pressing your pelvis on up. Hence the term elevated lotus. Tipping your head back far as you can go if you're comfortable doing this. And pretty much staying here until you satisfy the posture. Coming on back down. Now coming into easy seated forward fold. You're staying cross-legged. Adjust your feet if need be. Rising your hands up. Reaching tall. Reaching forward. Far as you can. It's not overly important if your chest and head don't reach the ground. It's an achievement, but it's not important. It is completely fine if you're still as elevated as I am. Each time you exhale, see if you can't bring yourself a little bit more forward and your hands are a little bit more forward. Remembering to bend from the hips, not the lower back. We don't want to grim our elbow backs just yet. Start to walk back now. So you're seated upright again. And now, seated spinal twist. Left hand, right knee. Right hand behind you. Each time you inhale, you exhale into some new space. You're able to twist around a little bit more. Switching around now. Right hand, left knee. Left hand behind you. Up nice and tall, that same string to head analogy. The string is pulling you up nice and tall. You inhale, and as you exhale, you find a bit more space to move and turn around. Again, you can make audible breathing sounds or just quiet ones. Back to center. And now, tabletop. So of course, knees under hips, wrists under shoulders. Coming into some cat-cow once you're here. So you're a cat, your back is pressing towards the ceiling or sky if you're outside. You're pressing the floor away from you, or your mat specifically. And then you're arching your back, relaxing your stomach. Significantly speaking, your hips and butt are sticking out. Shoulders are also up, but they're away from your ears. Coming back to cat, now that you know which is which, can also speed up the process. It's an amazing one for the spine. If you're too nervous about over-cracking the spine, as it warms up and becomes a bit more fluid, the right kind of fluid, then you don't have to make as big and dramatic motions. You can keep the movements more shallow, smaller. But if you're pretty confident with your back, then make the movement as dramatic as you like. I keep using the word dramatic, I hope you know what I mean. Okay, from our cat-cow, tabletop alternate leg stretches. So not too dissimilar from walking out or downward dog, but we're staying on our knees. We're just extending one leg at a time. Now, coming from here, tabletop, coming into some hydras, but we're not going to be exercising. We're going to circulate our leg. 1, 2 to warm up the hip joints individually. 3, 4 in one direction, switching directions. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Stepping your left foot forward, making the personal adjustments that you need to. Landing in sprinter lunge. Left foot is forward. You're broad through the chest. Your head is up. Of course, this is the part where you might want to invite your yoga blocks. But if you can't balance on your fingers or even closer to flat palms, by all means. And now shift back to Halasana, which is half split. Still making sure that right knee is under the hip. Your hips are square. Feel free to have a flexed left foot or a flat one. A flexed one just means you get the bonus points of a hamstring and calf stretch. Feel free to bring your hands a bit closer to you. You'll feel a really nice stretch along my hamstring and calf. Coming back to your sprinter lunge, you feel a really nice stretch in your hip flexor. Once more, both directions, half split. See if you can't get your head to your shin, but it's not important if you can't. Back to sprinter lunge. And now shifting your right leg in a bit, moving your calf muscle, hand of flesh out of the way a bit. Gonna come into single-legged reclined hero. So either here, upright with the hands, then onto elbows, or all the way down if you like, or bringing your left leg in to join the fun. Coming into reclined hero pose. So once again, same thing up here with the arms, down to elbows, or if you could definitely manage it, all the way down. Of course, if you have bad knees, flip yourself over and bring your heels to glutes with your hands. So we are double stretching out our thigh muscles. We're going to hang out here for too long. In fact, we're coming back up now. Grab onto your feet to give yourself some leverage coming back up. And all the way up. Come back to a tabletop. This time we switch out to our right leg, the hydrant circles. 1 in whichever direction you like. 2, 3, 4, switching sides, directions specifically. 1, 2, 3, 4, shifting that right foot forward to a sprinter lunge. Remember to keep the head tall, chest broad. Shifting back to your halasana, half split. You'll always notice one side has a lot more resistance than the other. Back to sprinter lunge. Nice deep breaths for no rush. Back to halasana. Try not to sit too far down close to your heel. I always make that mistake. Back to halasana. Very sorry, back to sprinter lunge. Now shifting back, but because we already did double side camel, we're bringing our right leg back from here, and only if you like, grab onto your heels or wherever you can around your feet. Press forward, pose camel. I don't ever like to stay in this posture for too long, so coming back up, allowing the spine to neutralize. To recenter and refocus itself. Just adjusting your pants while you're waiting for your spine to feel all good again. Now just shuffle your way back a bit, coming on down to a child's pose. Whatever your child's pose looks and feels like to you. Maybe you'd even like to relax the elbows, but also be palms up. Resting your forehead on the mat. It's also just a good counter move. Now from here, rising up, coming up to a downward dog. Feel free to have quite the bend in the knees, if need be, but otherwise straighten out as much as you can. Walk it out just a bit. And then, for a transition, left leg forward to a pigeon pose. So wherever you are, however far you can get your foot forward parallel to the mat, making sure that that back leg is in the middle of your mat, hips are square, depending also how tight you are in the hips. Broadening your chest and leaning on forward. So of course, if being up in your hands is more than enough for you for this pose, stay up in your hands. If you want to try coming down to your elbows but not enough range, falls too far away, use a bolster or some blocks to help bring the ground up to you. But if you don't mind being down here on your elbows, just relaxing, feeling an amazing, or maybe challenging but amazing stretch in your left glute. Lord knows we hold a lot of stress, a lot of tension in the glutes. Okay, slowly rising your way back up. Going to keep your right leg extended. Alright, my camera stopped recording post 28 minutes. So I just restarted the timer a bit to about 15 minutes remaining. So as we were, we didn't miss too much seconds. Spreading your legs appropriately, as wide as you can. It really does not matter if you can't get your legs so far apart. Lord knows I'm still making progress. But however far and wide your legs are, leaning on forward from the hips, running theme. Slowly start to walk forward, however far is physically possible. Making sure to keep those feet flexed. Eventually working to get your elbows to the mat, to the ground. It's going to come up temporarily. Winding a little bit more if you can. And seeing if you can't, come back down again, and your legs are a little bit more adjusted to what's going on. This time you might even be able to get elbows to the ground. But being damn sure to bend from those hips, not the lower back. It will feel most challenging when you're bending correctly. Rising back up, nice and gently. Just going to shift my mat a bit. Then we are coming to right side pigeon pose. So once again, your foot does not have to be parallel to the mat. That's only if you are able to, if it's within your practice. Hind leg is definitely within the middle of your mat. Your chest stays broad. Staying up here, if this is more than enough of a pigeon pose for you. Otherwise, start to coming down to the elbows. If once again you require props, by all means use those, especially if the ground's too far away from you. Also, if it helps to stay squared, insurance squared, see if you can't loop around your foot with opposite arm to opposite foot. Helps to square up the hips some more. Also adds some more of a challenging stretch in the right glute, because one side will be tighter than the other, have more resistance. So hooking onto your foot might just help, especially if you're outside and the ground isn't so even. I personally think we've been here long enough. Rising back up. And shifting back around to our downward dog. Making the transitions a whole lot more smoother than what I just did. Of course, if your legs are so stiff from those pigeon poses, feel free to walk out. From here, walking forward, as many steps literally as it takes. If you need to lift your hands up a bit just to successfully get to the top of your mat, by all means. Rising up halfway, lowering back down, shuffling your feet out to the side, and you want your heels in, feet out, lowering your hips, wherever you feel comfortable in Malasana. Bring your elbows to bounce the inside of your knee between the groove of your kneecap, patella, and the squashed in bit of flesh. Bring your elbows to there if it helps to, if you're with sleeves, so that your skin gets a nice grip on your pants and your sleeves aren't convincing your arms to slip. If you need to, upon discovery, just shift the heels in a bit more. Otherwise, keep the head nice and tall, back as straight as you can. An amazing deep hip opening posture. This one does involve core strength and some very active ankles. But otherwise, it's a really good posture to relax in. Maybe even find a meditative state in. And once you have satisfied this posture, shifting back nice and gently, nice and safely, without hands. If you do require hands, just to reach back, lean back, but if not, rubbing your left knee nearabouts with your right hand. Lay over to the side. Reasonably advanced spinal twist. It's fine if your other arm doesn't make it to the ground. Definitely a great one to feel a nice stretch throughout your lower back glute area, uppermost glutes, lowermost back. Looking over your left shoulder if you so choose. Gently lifting up your left leg and switching out sides. You might also need to shift your hips over a bit. Straightening out your left leg, grabbing your right leg with your left hand. Allowing yourself to come on over. Same concept on this side. It's not important if your knees don't reach the ground. If it does, that's great. So now we're going to feel a nice release all within this genuine area. And one arm might have more success at reaching the ground than the other. And now we're coming back up, helping to elevate your leg first. So we're going to neutralize the spine a bit. And then we come into Happy Baby. So I like to use one foot to press the other closer in. And then grabbing around the outside, nice edge of the foot. And nice good grip. And feet are about beach ball width apart, so just outside the hips. Feel absolutely free to rock side to side, much like a happy baby. It'll also give our lumbar spine, which is the small of our back, that we've been focusing on this whole time. This rocking motion will give it a nice good massage. However long you want to do this, however slow you want the rocks, or no rocks at all, and you want to be still. Now from here, closing your feet back in, planting your feet. Gonna re-lift up again. An easy spinal twist, side to side. Trying to collide into a wall. So really loosen up everything just a little bit more. And now coming on up to an easy seated pose. Right back to where we started. Obviously, of course, if you want to indulge in a Baddha-Konasana, Supta Baddha-Konasana, I believe it actually is, reclined butterfly pose. Feet together, knees wide, laying back. Or even a Shavasana, by all means. But if you're more than happy to be up in your easy seated pose, she'll feel a whole lot more loose in the legs, in the hips especially, the lower back. Feel free to do this class over and over again if you need to, just to really loosen up everything. And now we sit, we breathe, and we enjoy for a little bit. And then mudra, hands again. Again, it's the A-OK hand gesture, but palms up. Elbows to knees. Taking in some nice deep breaths, or whatever type of breaths you'd like, audible or silent. So now thanking ourselves, being on this mat, allowing ourselves to be patient while our body is going through a particular cycle, stretching out just to relieve the muscles, relieving stress as well. I apologize for the background noise. Relieving stress as well in the lower back, in the glutes, physical stress, emotional stress, cleansing ourselves in more ways than one. Hoping you're feeling so much loose, to have more functioning. And that's also what that Parajisic is for. And now rising our hands up above our head again. All that positive energy, bring it on down to your third eye. Significantly your forehead, down to your heart chakra for a lot of love, a lot of intuitive love, peace and love. Love within yourself, patience with yourself. And again, if you need to repeat this class a few times over, no harm in doing so. Bowing out with yourself. And thanking yourself so much for being on this mat, for being on your mat. Thank you all so much for watching and or flowing. I do appreciate it either. I do appreciate it either way. And I shall see you all for my future videos. Namaste.